Now let's take a look at the DeHum module. Now this is there to remove any sort of low rumble hum sounds that are in your audio. Normally these are associated with grounding issues. For example, you get some grounding sounds that sit at the 60 Hz region, and you can use this DeHum module to remove those low hum sounds. This is an example of some hum in the audio, which could possibly be from a grounding issue. You can hear that hum over here. I just hover over here. That's the hum sound. And if I move across into the spectrogram view, there's this low hum over here. But if I right click on the frequency area here and change the frequency scale, I'll change it to extended log. Now you can more clearly see that low 60 Hz hum. And also its partials. So there is a partial at around 120 Hz, another sort of harmonic partial at about 180 Hz. I'm going to bring back the waveform slightly so I can see where everything is. And also, you can jump across to a spectrum utility measuring tool. And if you play back, this is an example. You can see there's some hum at 60 Hz, at about 116, and another at 174. This is an example. So now, let's use the DeHum tool to see how much we can remove of this hum. First, what you need to do is you need to select some of the hum so you can learn it as a noise profile. You can select a bit and learn it, but unfortunately this is a bit too short, so I'm going to make it on adaptive mode so that it's constantly going to be listening out for the hum. Then I'm going to make a selection. So I will select this over here. I'm going to play it back and preview it. But before I do that, I want to reduce the harmonics to 1. So this is going to focus in on the frequency at 60 Hz, and you can change the Q value. I'm going to keep it quite narrow, and I'm going to preview. This is an example of some hum in the audio. This is an example of some hum. Let's reduce that Q value so it's not so narrow, and preview it again. This is an example of some hum in the audio. Now let's add in some extra harmonics. So here we've got a harmonic at about 120 and then another at 180. We'll preview that. This is an example of some hum in the audio. Now that's worked great. I'm just going to increase that preview. Play it back. This is an example of some hum in the audio, which could possibly, and then you hear it back again. If you've got some extra harmonics, you can choose to show the odd and even. So as you can see there, that's showing the odd and even, or I could show none, or I could show all the harmonics. So if I increase all the harmonics there you've got all the harmonics of the audio. This will only show the odds and evens, and this will show none of them. But I'll stick to all and reduce it back to the 3 that I needed. Then you can change the slope. So as you can see, that's changing how much I want to reduce on that hum. So I know that the 60 Hz hum is the main hum that I'm hearing. And then these partials at 120 and 180, I don't need them reduced as much. So I can actually reduce that slope slightly. This is an example of some hum in the audio, which could, that's working really well. What you could also add in is a high pass filter to filter out some of the lows. This is an example of some, and then also a low pass filter. Maybe you want to reduce some of that high end, shelve it off a bit. This is an example. That's obviously a bit drastic, so I'm going to pull that in. This is an example of some hum in the audio, which could possibly this. And you have also an option to filter out the DC offset and make the filters linear phase filters. This works well because it's using the linear phase, but sometimes this can sort of bring in some ringing to the sound. This is an example of some hum in the audio. And now if I turn that off and preview it, this is an example of some hum in the audio. So just preview them and hear which one sounds better. But personally, I prefer the linear phase off for this example. And then when you're happy with everything, I can select it all and render it out. So now we've got this. This is an example of some hum in the audio, which could possibly be from a grounding issue. Going back to the initial state. This is an example of, and then back to afterwards. This is an example of some hum in the audio. So that's done pretty well. We've removed quite a bit of the hum. There's still a bit of noise in there, so you could possibly go in and add some denoise and get rid of some of the extra noise that's in that audio sound. But for now, this has removed quite a bit, and we can move on to some of the other modules.